Bienvenidos, bruchim habaim, and welcome to the first plenary of the 24 to 27 triennium. Welcome. To those of you who are returning deputies, welcome back. Let's see a show of hands from the returning deputies. Welcome back. And to our new deputies, a huge welcome to you. Show us your hands. Welcome, welcome. You'll know that the Board of Deputies has a tremendous history since 1760. This week we have 4th of July, the American independence. Well, we're 16 years older than the United States of America. And together this triennium, we're going to write our own chapter in history. And I welcome you all to it. It's going to be a good one. One of the things that's an amazing thing about historic organizations is that we have traditions. And one of the traditions that we have is the board prayer. And it's tradition that the Board of Deputies president on the first meeting of the new triennium will read that board prayer. And this time is slightly different because for the first time in 70 years, we're not mentioning Her late Majesty the Queen, but that we've updated the board prayer to mention His Majesty the King. And so they've produced a specially commissioned prayer on parchment, which I'm going to now read to you. Avinu shebashamayim, frosh kanafecha aleinu ועל כל קהילות בית ישראל. תינה ידך עמנו לחזקנו לאמצנו, דרכיך הודיענו ואורחותיך למדנו. תן חיים ושלום למלך גבורתנו, ושלח ברכה והצלחה במעשה ידיו. שומר ישראל, מתיר אסורים וסומך נופלים, אנא ברחמך הרבים, אתם מסורות נדחים פדי שבויים. הוציאי מצרה לרווחה ומשעבוד לגאולה. החזיר אותם הביתה עכשיו. שים שלום השקט ובטחה בארצנו הקדושה, כלי יגון, חיש ישע והיטיבה ברצונך ציון, ונאמר Amen. Which in English means, Our Father in heaven, grant protection to us all and to all the communities of the house of Israel. Strengthen us and give us courage. Make known to us your ways and teach us your paths. Grant life and peace to His Majesty the King and bestow upon him blessing and prosperity. Guardian of Israel, who sets free the captives and supports the fallen, we beseech you in your abundant mercies to relieve the oppressed, set free those who are held, and bring them forth from trouble to deliverance and from captivity to redemption. Bring them home now. Grant peace, quietude, and safety to the Holy Land. Bring an end to the distress of its people. Hasten salvation and deal kindly with Zion. And let us say, Amen. The honorary officer team has hit the ground running with energy and enthusiasm. We've set out 5 key priorities which are going to guide the way that we work over the coming 3 years. 1, fight anti-Semitism. 2, stand up for peace and security in Israel and the Middle East. 3, defend our religious freedoms. 4, make our community more united, more inclusive, and more outward-looking. And 5, celebrate our faith, heritage, and culture as British Jews. Obviously, we didn't expect within 10 days of us being elected that the Prime Minister would call a general election. So clearly, we've been very busy with that. We've organized, we've created a manifesto, and thank you to all of you who contributed earlier, and thank you to the outgoing honorary officer team who led that process at the beginning. I think it's a real tribute to the various parts of our community and the opinions that we have. And of course, we've organized around 30 hustings around the country with you. As it was one of our pledges that we would work with you to organize these hustings. I want to say a particular thank you to Vice President Andrew Gilbert and the staff team and all of the honorary officers who contributed to that, and to all of you who made sure that our community puts our views to our future politicians. We've been really focused in this first 30 days on delivery. As Elvis Presley might have said, a little less conversation, a little more action. And so there's been so much energy in terms of delivering the pledges that we made during our election. I pledged on the first day that we would put out a job adverts for roles that would empower our deputies, help us push back against some of the bias, help us increase our fundraising. That's a pledge delivered. I pledged that I'd spend my ambient lighting. I pledged I'd spend my first full Shabbat in Manchester. That's another pledge delivered. I pledged I'd meet communal partners in different denominations. Another pledge delivered. I pledged I'd meet the Israeli ambassador to discuss our common challenges and opportunities. Another pledge delivered. I pledged I would be part of a solidarity mission to Israel in my early days. That's another pledge delivered. I pledged I would meet ambassadors and representatives of Arab and Muslim states so we could expand the circle of peace. That's begun. Another pledge delivered. I said when we were elected that the all-male honorary officer team was something that we would need to think about. Within 30 days, we've delivered a first draft of a gender equality plan. We're going to be talking to women deputies tomorrow. I'm looking forward to moving that forward. Another pledge delivered. And of course, a key thing that I spoke about, and I think this is really important, is how we make these board meetings even better. So I pledged we'd have Kiddush, another pledge delivered. I pledged we would make sure we review the timings to ensure the inclusion of our regional deputies, another pledge delivered. I pledged we'd change the format of the meeting so we'd have an open forum for discussion. That will come later on in the meeting. Another pledge delivered. And I pledged an independent chair for meetings. And we've put out recruitment, but in the meantime, I want to say how grateful I am to Karen for agreeing to step up while we undertake that process. An independent chair, you guessed it, another pledge delivered. We've made a bit of use of music as well. I hope you enjoyed that. You know, some of the things we're trying are new and experimental. Some of them won't work. Some of them will work. We'd love your feedback afterwards to let us know how we can improve these meetings and how we can improve your experience. Because ultimately, these meetings are about you and the opportunity to hear from you. And that's what I want to encourage. Now, one of the things, and I wonder if I can have my notes here, I'm supposed to do is do congratulations and condolences. So let me just find that in our paperwork. So I have some mazel tovs to Kim Cohen on the bat mitzvah of his granddaughter, mazel tov. To Jerry Lewis on his 75th birthday, mazel tov. To Jonathan Metlis on his 75th birthday, mazel tov. To Stuart Williamson on the bar mitzvah of his grandson, mazel tov. To Karina Kaufman, daughter of Vicky Harris and daughter-in-law of Flo Kaufman, Zichrona Livracha, on retaining her European Championship title in her age group in the standard distance European Duathlon Championships in Coimbra, Portugal. Mazel tov. Fantastic. To Keith Appleby on the engagement of his son Ed to Miriam Katz. Mazel tov. And to Lawrence Julius on the birth of his new granddaughter born on the 1st of June. Mazel tov. A couple, unfortunately, of condolences to pass on. One to our deputy Shmuel Yosef Davidson on the very sad passing of his wife Adina, Zichrona Livracha. And condolences to the family of Melvin Hartog, Zichron Livracha, on his passing as well. Friends, we know that we've got serious challenges. We know in the context, sitting in the shadow of 7th October, the war of defense against Hamas and the massive rise in anti-Semitism. But we as a community have resilience in our DNA, and I'm determined that over this triennium and going forward, we will come back stronger. And with your help, we will do that. I'm going to hand over now to Karen Newman to take forward the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Phil, and thank you very much for all of you. I hope that I chair this meeting with consent and that I will, at the end, have earned some, hopefully, respect for so doing. My remarks here will be brief. I need you just to remind you at this very first plenary meeting of this triennium that if we could together set the tone for being polite and respecting the huge diversity of opinion that we have within the board. In this connection, I should tell you that I'm very proud to welcome two journalists in our midst today. We have Simon Rocker with us from the Jewish Chronicle and also Jenny Fraser from Jewish News. You are both most welcome here. It's great to have you with us. It is planned that the plenary will be uploaded either this evening or tomorrow morning. We're not being live streamed, but it will be uploaded later. I just want to remind you, if you've been here before, and just to mention to new deputies, it is our custom here, if you go to the microphone or want to ask a question or make any kind of comment, for you first of all to say your name and then to say your constituency, just so that we know who you are. We want to hear from as many people as possible, so I will be asking you to keep to time. You will see a clock that will start ticking. It will give you 60 seconds to ask a question, and you'll be pleased to know that I'm going to be equally tough with our honorary officers here and give them only 60 seconds to reply. You will have a bit longer in the forum session afterwards. We're going to up that by 50%. You're going to have a minute and a half, as indeed will they. We're trying to get the balance right of hearing as many voices as possible while at the same time keeping things short and relatively tight. So if you are in the hall, and there's something that you would like to say, I would encourage you to go up to the microphone and we will take you in turn. Equally, if you are online, and a very warm welcome to all of you joining us online. My good friend Michael here is keeping an eye on which of you are raising your electronic hand. We will do our best to feed in those comments. Okay, it just, I think, remains for me to say that when you see a clock, it will only start ticking when we can hear you. So don't worry, if there's any problem with the tech, you will not lose time. Let's get the meeting underway, but I understand Maria Katz would like the floor, is that correct?
No, but they've gone. They put their hand down.
Ah.
It was Noah, but Noah's put their hand down.
I'm all for reseat.
No, Noah's back there. Noah Katz.
Noah, you are most welcome here. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Karen. Hello, everyone. Less of a question. Oh, can you hear? Right, time has started. Less of a question, more of a couple of requests from deputies. So I'm Noah Katz, they, them. I'm a deputy for UJS. And apologies if you can hear my tumble dryer behind me. As well as being a UJS deputy, I'm the chair of the board's Under 35 Assembly, which is set up to empower youth voice within the board and make sure that our structures are working for deputies under the age of 35. To that end, we're holding a seminar next weekend. If there are any new deputies under the age of 35, deputies and observers under the age of 35, please get in touch with us at u35assembly@bod.org.uk. And my second request, oh gosh, I've got 20 seconds, is that if there are any deputies that identify as LGBTQ+, please also get in touch with me. You can find my information through most people probably in the room, and we'll add you to our LGBTQ working group. After the mess that happened around Pride this week, we would like to get together and organise, and that is just over a minute. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Great. Under 35 is a really important part of our board. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm done with the introduction. So the next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes of the meeting held on the 12th of May 2024. Now, obviously, those of you new deputies will not have been here, so I hope that you returning deputies will show how quickly and businesslike we can do this. So if you have the minutes before you, if there's no issues around accuracy on page 1, anything online? 2, there was no feedback. Good. In that case, will it be the pleasure of the board that we take these minutes as a correct record of our meeting? Yes? Okay, excellent. They are so approved. Yep. Great. Okay, and our next item is the introduction to divisions and staff. So, over to... Who's going to go first? Can we go from left to right?
Adrian. Yeah, Adrian first.
Adrian first. Great. Adrian first. Yeah. Our senior vice president first.
Thank you very much. My name's Adrian Cohen. For those who don't know me, I'm the senior vice president of the board deputies, and I am chairing the international division. In your pack, there is a description of each of the divisions as part of the starter pack for everybody. So can you hear me? Is that? Yeah. Yes, you can hear me. Yeah. Which gives a description of what each of the divisions does. Our division's activities, as the title suggests, is very much internationally focused, and we have a number of different work streams. The first is that we're an advocate for Israel, so we're concerned for Israel's security, welfare. We also have a focus on the campaign to delegitimize Israel and to promote BDS as well. And we're also concerned with the various terrorist movements which threaten the state of Israel. Obviously, since the 7th of October, this is a particularly heightened area of activity. Along with that, we're very focused on peace building as well, and we work through and with the London FCDO, Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, to support peace building, where the principles we operate are those of the policy of the board's deputies, which is two-state solution, a negotiated two-state solution based on a secure Israel and a viable Palestinian state. That obviously requires security for Israel, and there have to be a Palestinian interlocutor, which are obviously very challenging at the present time, and we don't put any focus on how, when, and what the conditions of that would be. And then we're focused on anti-Semitism.
You're just edging your thing off the table. No, don't worry.
Oh, sorry. And then we're focused on anti-Semitism, racism and extremism. Again, extremism is a big issue. And we work with our sister communities around the world and with the various international Jewish organisations that exist. So some of you will have familiarity with organisations such as the World Jewish Congress, which we're a member of, but we also work with the Anti-Defamation League and the American Jewish Committee and others. And we're particularly focused on the religious rights of our sister communities, and again the impact of anti-Semitism on those. So it is a very broad area of activity, and the board on the international stage, because of the long history that we have, which the President mentioned, but also because of our reputation, we have very strong standing, and it's the reason that we're involved, for example, in something called the J7, set up relatively recently by the Anti-Defamation League as one of the cornerstone organisations in that structure. So, and I know from speaking to people informally here, there's a lot of interest in the division. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Ben, do you want to say something about the FNO?
Yes, absolutely. I'm Ben Crown. I'm the Deputy for Bevis Marks, and I'm the board's treasurer. I run what we're hoping to rename in due course the Finance, Fundraising and Organisation Division, which is very much sort of a Ronseal division. It does exactly what it says in the tin. The couple of points I would bring out in particular for returning deputies in terms of emphasis and focus is we're going to be spending more time in this triennium on fundraising. We're looking to involve as many people as possible in that. And also on the organisation side with deputy engagement, there are some ongoing projects already. Deputies will or will soon be contacted by one of the honorary officers to welcome or welcome them back. The buddy scheme, new deputy speaking programme, which we'll do later in the year, and induction sessions, which have been timetabled and information should be sent out to you, and other things as we progress. Really we're trying to involve as many people as possible in our work, welcome new people into the organisation, which can be quite, a complex and elaborate organisation, as smoothly as possible. And if you do have any issues or queries, please come speak to us. Just want to make two very specific points. First of all, you will have received as part of your welcome pack the deputy contact details and agreement form. It is very important that people return that, if for no other reason, that it gives us consent to use your personal data, and in particular, your email addresses. What we would like to do at some point soon is to circulate a list of all deputies with contact details to each other, but we need people to send back the form so we know we have accurate information and that we have consent to share it. So please do that. If people can't find the form immediately, I will have stuck at the back of the room a QR code that people can scan. If people don't know how to use a QR code, there are younger deputies in the room who I'm sure will be very happy. I want to say just one other thing, just for 30 seconds, which is today is the last day in contract of our Director of Finance, Brian Markison. Brian technically, obviously, stepped down on Friday, but we're still in June. He's been an acceptably active and capable Director of Finance. He's always been available for the many queries and issues which we've had. And we're very sad to see him go. We're going to miss him, though as I see him in the room right now, hopefully he's not gone very far. So can I just ask for a quick round of applause? Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. For those of you online, Brian just said, thank you. It's been a privilege and an honour to work for the board. Thank you. Before I ask Adrian to speak, I just want to say one... Andrew to speak. I just want to say one of the reasons why we're introducing the divisions isn't just to give you all a feel for the work, it's to encourage you to stand for election for the divisions. The divisions is the engine room of the board. That's where the work happens. And in order to make them as representative as they can be, we need as many of you as possible to stand for election for the board. Andrew, please.
Thanks, Karen. So what's been called the Defence Division, which is intended to be called the Security, Resilience and Cohesion Division, is a division that has a lot of the core work that many of you seem to massively care about, like me. And this could be the work that we do around anti-Semitism, the work we do with the police, the work we're doing on the ground where we're worried about what's going on in the media, where we're worried with the BBC, where we're worried about what's going on in culture, where we are concerned about how we tackle the threat of extremism on our streets, and also the protection of students on campus, working really closely with UJS and CST. That's a core part of the work of the division. Beyond that, we're also about fostering communal harmony and interfaith and rebuilding cohesion and working together with organisations there, really reaching out with the church, but also other faiths as well. And there's another really important aspect. The other area have come much more to the fore because of the pandemic and what happened to us during the pandemic, where we realised that there were areas where we hadn't campaigned so much in that were really now important. And some of that's contained in what's referred to as resilience. And when I look at national resilience, there are actually 3 government departments that work on resilience. One is COBRA in the Prime Minister's office. There is also the National Risk and Resilience Register, and there's the framework, and then there's something called RED in what's currently called DLUP, but probably by next week will have changed its name. And that's the resilience directorate. And when we look at that and all the local work that can happen, so in policing and in health, which is another core area of how we work together, in the remit of the division also includes then the family law group, which I'm looking at Eleanor. It also includes the health work that David Katz has done for many years. And so when you realise this remit, we've got to work how we work together with the Home Office, how we work together in terms of national health, and how we also build that locally, working with you in terms of local resilience forums, local health partnerships, and how we involve deputies in working together with local police and doing that as we can across the country. So some real challenges. We need many more people than the 16 who will be elected to the division. So whether you're looking to be involved locally or regionally, or whether you're looking to be involved in any of those aspects, and you bring anything, whether you're an academic or a health professional or a resilience professional, you're going to be really welcome to be involved in the work of this division.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And last but by no means least, Jeremy, I'm upset to see you squidged on the end there. But, do you have enough room there?
No, I'm fine, thank you. Can people hear me all right? Is that okay? Yeah. Hi. Before I start, I'm Jeremy Michelson. I represent Manchester Great New and Central Synagogue, but much better known locally as Steen Court Shul. And I'm now Vice President with responsibility for communities and education. But before I start, I just want to make a brief statement, which I'll not repeat again throughout the triennium. It's just that I'm partially sighted. For those who don't, new members, I'm partially sighted. I'm blind in my right eye. I only have a certain amount of sight in my left. And when I walk into a crowded building like this, I immediately go into survival mode. That is not my survival, your survival. And so that I don't knock people over and spill people's drinks. And so I tend to look straight ahead, and I don't see people to the right or to the left. And if you want to speak to me, I mean, you might be glad that I don't see, but if you want to speak to me, and I'm walking straight past you, please don't take offense. Just take my arm and say, hi, it's so-and-so, and we'll all remain good friends. Okay, on July the 16th, the Communities and Education Division is having a road show starting, I think, 5:30 till 7 on July the 16th, in which it's open to all the deputies, and we'll be showcasing all the things we do. Without any attempt to disparage any other divisions, I like to think of the division, I've been on it since 2015, I like to think of it as the division that really gets things done. We concentrate very much on education, particularly education outside the Jewish schools. We talk about Jewish education for non-Jewish people, and we try and get people to stand for representation on the Standing Advisory Council for Religious Education. Every local authority has one. They're called SACREs. Every local authority that has an education remit for compulsory school education has one. And we need Jewish people to be on those SACRE committees so that they'll make sure that they'll foster good relations with other faiths, but also they'll make sure that Judaism is being taught effectively and appropriately, and the same with if the State of Israel is part of the teaching, then that is done again in an appropriate way that educates and not indoctrinates. As well as that, I would like to extend the education work we do to older age groups as well, and that would involves working with local communities. And of course, I'm the first regional deputy to be an honorary officer for at least 15 years. And so I have that very much in my thoughts. And so we'll be trying to involve regional communities as much as possible. And also, but not forgetting London. I know the wonderful work that Andrew and Adrian did for the London Jewish Forum. Then that's now been taken over by Amanda and Michael. And we'll be working closely with them where they need some assistance. As well as that, we talk about heritage, and there's a plan that Dawn Waterman, who is a staff member that specialises in heritage, amongst other things, will tell more about on the 16th about the development of blue plaques in places of Jewish interest, because we don't want Jewish history to be forgotten in this country. And it's very important that this takes place, and you may well be interested in that side of it. The Social Justice Committee, which in the last triennium stood as an independent group, is coming back where I believe it belongs, back in the Community and Education Division, and those who are interested in taking social action, particularly with a Jewish, obviously a Jewish element, will have a chance to get involved that way. There are so much more, but I really think that's probably as much as you can cope with at the moment. Please come along on the 16th of July. It's going to be on Zoom. It's open to everyone. Those who chaired the working groups last time will be asked to give a very, very brief outline of what they're doing. So thanks very much, and look forward to working with you all.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Thank you. It's really important that deputies know who the key staff are. So I'm going to hand over to our Chief Executive, Michael Uyghur, to introduce some of the staff who are here.
Hi, thanks very much, Karen. And it's really a pleasure to see everybody here and on Zoom for the new triennium. All that's going to happen now is I'm going to ask each member of staff who's either in the room or on Zoom just to spend a second saying what their name is and what their job title is, just to give you a sense. Those of you who get involved in divisions will start to interact a great deal with the staff. We have a small staff team of about 15 people spread in London, Manchester and Brighton, and they're really available through all working hours just to help facilitate the work of the deputies and the work of the board. For those who don't know me, my name is Michael Uyghur and I'm the Chief Executive.
Welcome, I'm Andrew Lee, I'm the Director of Operations, and part of my responsibilities is organising plenaries, getting paperwork to you. I'm the secretariat, one of the secretariat for the F&O, or the F&O as it currently is, and I look after risk and governance for the organisation.
Hi, I'm also not tall enough for this. My name's Dawn Waterman. I'm the Director of Education and Communities. I've been at the board since 2015, so that's quite a while. So I've had the pleasure of working with 3 presidents. I work with Jeremy at on the Community and Education Division, and I hope you'll come to our Try Before You Buy session on the 16th of July. I also support the President and the HOs in taking forward our gender equality plan. As you can see from the top table, we've got a bit of work to do on that. And I'm taking forward our Heritage Blue Plaque scheme, the one that Jeremy mentioned, which is going to celebrate the contribution of the Jewish community in Britain. And I hope that you'll help me and take part in that as well. Thanks.
Hello, can you hear me? I'm David Robinson. I am the Parliamentary and International Relations Officer at the board. That largely means that I'm the Secretariat for the International Division with Adrian, but my day-to-day sort of includes maintaining the board's relationship with parliamentarians, government, civil service, embassies, international organisations. So I kind of just dip my toes all around. And then sort of just assisting where I can. I've been at the board for about 18 months. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sarah Hussain, Executive Assistant at the board. Most of you probably know me as the person that sends out your plenary documents. Please do send me an email if you have any inquiries, issues. I'm also managing Phil's diary, so if you have any requests for him, please send them to me. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Leo Mindell. I'm not actually a staff member, but I have been doing the live streaming. I used to be a deputy for 7 years, and I have been doing the live streaming when someone asked me once, how do we make this thing go online? And this is pre-COVID, so I've been involved in it for quite a long time, and I'm here helping it behind the scenes. So I'm Leo Mindell.
Thank you so much. And just seeing Leo reminds me, one of the things I was supposed to do was direct your attention to the fact that if you're in the hall, the Wi-Fi code is on pieces of paper attached to the walls either side of you. And now online we have some staff, please.
So I'll call upon staff online if you could do the same thing, please. Daniel Sugarman.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Sugarman, and I am the Director of Public Affairs for the Board of Deputies, which means that I lead the Public Affairs team with regards to our strategy when it comes to liaising, for instance, with politicians around the country at all levels, as well as representatives from civil society. I also have a background in media, so when it comes to press releases and stories in the papers, I'm also involved. I'd be delighted to work with any and all of you, and if any of you have any further questions, you can contact me at daniel.sugarman@bod.org.uk. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anna Silva.
I can't. Hello, everyone. I'm Anna Silva. I'm the Education Officer. Generally speaking, I support the teaching of Judaism and work on many things that Jeremy's just mentioned, including doing a bit of teacher training, creating and looking after resources, mainly the Jewish Living Experience exhibition, the travelling exhibition that we have, or the copies of it, and also helping to produce our new digital resources for secondary schools, JLO. I do some work editing texts on Judaism and sometimes linking into Israel as well. And some organisations use us to consult on writing their texts on Judaism as well. We also support individual Jewish teachers and Jewish students in non-Jewish schools. And also, as Jeremy mentioned, we work with SACRE reps, making sure each SACRE committee in each area has a Jewish representative and supporting their work. So I work with the Education Working Group, so I look forward to working with some of you and meeting you.
Thank you. And Sarah Radivan, who I suspect many of you have already met as you are joining the board. Sarah.
Or even Sarah, but thank you.
My
sorry.
Profound apologies.
A major clanger. Hi, I'm Sarah Radivan. I'm the Deputy and Community Engagement Manager. I am based in Manchester, but I have met many returning deputies. I do come to London both for work and for social and meet many deputies. My main job, as Michael said, I have onboarded nearly 240 deputies in the last month, which is great, both new and returning. I liaise and I correspond with deputies, so a lot of information regarding the board comes from me. I've taken the lead on the Adopt a Hostage campaign, and it's great that so many synagogues and organisations have taken part in that really worthwhile campaign. And I look forward to continuing to working with returning deputies and to meeting our new deputies both online and in person.
Thank you. Jack Baldwin.
Hello. I think I've managed to unmute.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. So yeah, I'm Jack. I'm the Local and Regional Government Officer at the board. As my title suggests, my primary role is political engagement with local councils and devolved bodies across the UK. One of my key responsibilities is organising local councillor seminars, of which we try to organise 3 a year, and I work very closely with Sarah Radovan and Jewish rep councils to organise those. These seminars consist of a day of workshops and talks aimed at teaching councillors about Judaism, anti-Semitism, and how best local councillors can support their constituents. Since starting in this role, I've met with 2 different leaders of local councils upon the requests of local communities to make sure that the local council is taking Jewish concerns seriously, especially since October 7th. Jewish rep councils across the country, and that includes Skojec and London Jewish Forum, are often already on top of local issues, but the board is always here to offer further support when requested. I'm also more holistically just a public affairs officer. I support Daniel Sugarman and the public affairs team with various different aspects of the role, such as letter writing or engaging with trade unions. And finally, I'm the Secretariat of the Defence Division, which is where I come into contact with most deputies. I'll be sending the papers, agendas and minutes as I have done previously. This also means that I support other work the board does, linking to the division's working groups, such as higher education, culture, media, sport, and so on. In summary, if there's anything Defence Division, trade union, or local government related, then I'm more than happy to lend a hand with whatever it may be. Thanks.
Thank you. And just got two more to go. Very briefly, please. Martin.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you can hear me. Martin Ellis. I'm Martin Ellis, Finance Manager, working in the board staff team. My primary role relates to deputies is to be the point of contact for finance and communal contribution issues. The voluntary communal contribution is the single most important source of funds, as you all know. If you join the Finance, Fundraising and Organisation Division, which we hope some of you will, you're likely to be further involved in this important task. My other role is to produce the monthly internal accounts, manage the annual budgeting cycle, and every meeting you'll see extracts of the accounts which I submit into Ben, the Treasurer, with my commentary, and he will then submit them to the meeting. I also manage all the bank accounts day to day, pay the wages, the staff, government and suppliers. And finally, I'm the man responsible to pay you all back for your travel expenses for attending plenary meetings, especially those who come from outside London. And we can facilitate that with expense forms, which are available from me or Sarah.
Thank you. And Acharon Chaviv, finally, Adam.
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry I'm not with you. I'm in Brighton, just handing out leaflets for the hostages. Soon after that, I will be attending and helping to set up the hustings we're having here in Brighton this evening. So I apologize for not being there with you. My name is Adam Ma'anit. I'm the Digital Communications Officer at the board, and my main function is to be part of the public affairs team. I do everything that we do online is basically comes either through my hands or with my help. The main things I've been working on, other than the social media and the website, is that I'm also, we've just finished together with Anna and Dawn a major project with ADL on the Jewish Living Online exhibition, which we're very proud of, which is a course that we're sending out to secondary schools all over the country, rolling it out as we speak. So we're very excited about that. Anything to do with tech, digital, also digital policy, AI, human rights and technology, anti-Semitism online, obviously a big one, kind of falls into my remit as well. So thank you so much, and Shavua Tov.
So just to finish this off, please, I want to let people know about Adam. Adam has a cousin who is a hostage in Gaza, and this cousin's daughter was killed on October the 7th. So, of course, all of the staff thoughts and deputies' thoughts are all with Adam and his family, and he has become one of the activists in town, in the country, who's been most involved in hostage work. Not with us on the Zoom today is Simon Round, who's our communications officer, Victoria Lisek, who does religious and civil affairs, Danny Myers, who is director of the London Jewish Forum, I think, and also the Janine Rose, who is the director of Pikuach. So Pikuach is the Jewish Ofsted, the Jewish Schools Inspection Service. So that's the staff team, and as I said before, we're all here to help support the work of the deputies and everything that the board does. Back to you, Karen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you very much to the staff for all the work that you do. I see Richard is walking to the microphone. Richard?
Very quick question. Richard
No,
Sassoon.
you have to say, oh, you're about to. Brilliant.
Richard Sassoon, Wembley, Spanish Portuguese, Sephardi community. Could we please have an org chart sent out to all deputies?
Organisational chart.
Organisation chart.
Yes.
Yes.
Use that also for Sparrow.
Yes, yes, yes.
Great,
fine,
yeah,
fine.
yes, okay, thank you.
I will send around an updated one subsequent to divisional name changes and the finalising of working groups for the new triennium.
Super, thank you very much. So with that introduction to your hard-working honorary officer team and your hard-working staff, we can now move to questions to the President and the honorary officers. We hope to have a system whereby the reports are taken as read, so you won't have people sitting up here reading you documents that you've already had access to. And in order to take as many questions as possible, we would ask you again to be as brief as you can. So with that, I invite people in the hall to go up to the microphone if they would form an orderly queue, as they say in the classics. And I would invite those of you online to raise your hands, as I see some of you have. We will try to alternate one person in the hall and one person online so that we can be fair to the people who can't join us in person. And it gives me great pleasure to ask the father of the board to ask the first question. Jerry, the floor is yours, but the clock will start.
Jerry Lewis, Hampstead Synagogue. First of all, welcome to the whole of the team. Wish you hatzlacha. Very small housekeeping matter. We've had a list of the meetings for the rest of this year. There is an inequality about the dates and the gaps between the meetings. The Constitution says we're supposed to have 8. A minimum of 8. I would like the board to consider going back to what we used to have, which is 10 meetings a year. This year, for example, we had no meeting in February and we had no meeting in December. The gaps are enormous sometimes. One gap of 9 weeks. There's no accountability for all that time. If we have 10 meetings a year, one virtually every month, we can then ask each of you to be accountable and give all of us, the backbenchers, a chance to ask questions.
Thank you very much, Jerry. May I suggest that we ask the Secretariat to consider that and report back, to have a look at the frequency of meetings for calendar year 2025 and report back. Can I ask you, when you come to the mic, to say who you're asking a question to? And I'd like to take the next question from Glynis online.
Glynis Cusack, Stanmore Cannons Park Synagogue. One of our members, just to the President, one of our members has approached me with some criticism of the regular weekly briefing. And on reading the weekly briefing on the 14th of June, she noticed that the President sent many visits to Jewish institutions, and she felt she wanted to hear more about the President having some involvement with government. At that time, I thought that Parliament had been prorogued, so therefore we didn't have Parliament and government. But she was very concerned about various things that everybody mentioned that they're worried about. I just wondered whether there is an opportunity to redesign the community briefing each week to include updates on meetings with government after the general election.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that question. I'm disposed to take a number of groups and then questions and then come back to the honorary officers to answer. So I'll take a couple more and then I'll give them a chance to respond. Robert, please.
Robert Stone, Finchley Reform Synagogue. I expressed my concern to the President before this meeting. This is addressed to the whole HOs. That, I'm sorry. I expressed concern to the President earlier that reading the reports of the President and the divisions, I cannot find a single thing to criticise. Those of you who know me from the last training will know that this is an unusual position for me. I would like to commend the HOs on an excellent start. And my question is, can you keep this up for 3 years?
Thank you, Robert. Online we have, please, George White. The floor is yours.
This is a question for the President. One of my questions that I sent in was to ask the President to set out his 43 pledges, explain the proposed actions, and define what he considers to be successful. I asked the same question for the VPs as well, and I wanted information by about the middle of July, 15th of July. The reply I got is that these things will be fed into a board plan, which was one of the pledges to be fed in by September. However, of the 43 pledges, 20 of them were to be completed in the first 100 days, which will be ahead of whatever comes out in September. I also read that in the article that Phil wrote, saying that he wants to use the Jewish manifesto to hold the new government to account. I agree wholeheartedly with that. And the reason I'm following this up is because I would like to hold the President and the VPs to account based against their pledges. So will you actually do what I've requested?
Thank you, George. George, can you say your constituency, please?
Sorry, George White, Penna United.
Thank you. I'm disposed to take Dillis's question and then revert to the board. The officers, rather.
Dillis House, Belsize Square Synagogue. One of my constituents has requested that I inquire as to whether the board will be making any representations to the Royal Festival Hall with respect to the event on Sunday, the 28th of July, Contextualising Spaces for Liberation, which is a discussion on the practical, ethical and spatial challenges or envisaging a free Palestine, featuring Palestinian voices and allies from various disciples. This is part of a cultural music festival, but there is this particular event that my constituent is concerned about. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dillis. May I suggest, Phil, that you take the questions and then that I invite other honorary officers to respond to questions that they've heard. Thank you. Phil.
Thank you. Can you hear me well enough? Super. So to Jerry's question, you've seen from this first meeting that we're really keen to try and work on the format to enable the maximum participation of deputies. We'll review with you the frequency of the meetings, thinking about what's right. I know some people said let's have less meetings. So we'll try and hear from all of you, but the key focus is to ensure maximum participation. These meetings are ultimately for you more than anyone else. Glynis, I hear your point about the community briefing. We are going to, in due course, review that. Of course, the reason we haven't been having government meetings is because Parliament has been dissolved. So we did have some meetings just before that. You might have seen with the chair of the Conservative Party and the Shadow Home Secretary that we expect to resume after the elections have concluded. Robert, I'm sorry we gave you nothing to complain about. I'm sure we'll manage it in future meetings. George, I don't know if you were with us for the beginning of the meeting, but of course I did list some of the pledges that we've already achieved in the first 30 days. And we'll continue to give an update on that. We'll release a board plan by September, but of course in the July meeting and at other times we'll be updating you as to how we, at a canter, proceed through our pledges, myself and all the honorary officer team. But the board plan is the place that we're going to formalise all of that. And Dillis, you mentioned this earlier. I hadn't actually heard about that. We'll investigate it and see what's appropriate in terms of the Royal Festival Hall, but thanks for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you. Adrian or Ben, do you have anything to add to any of the questions? Yeah, answered.
Just in terms of, I'm sure I speak for everyone else running their divisions. There's obviously, we have the divisional elections and that's going to come up later in the meeting, timing of those. We had a meeting of the International Division last week where we discussed in general terms the kind of areas of priority, what we think need focusing on. So one, which I didn't mention in my earlier remarks, was Iran. And I'm sure you're all very excitedly watching the Iranian elections on Friday. And Ayatollah Khomeini won. But obviously we need to resettle once we have the divisional elections and we have a settled division membership, and I'm sure it's the same for everyone else, to work out our priorities going forward for the rest of Triennium. And that obviously feeds into the plan as well that the President just mentioned.
Thank you. Andrew, anything, and in particular, if you have anything on Dillis's meeting?
Yes, so Dillis, it's the first I've heard of this, and I'm looking at it now. an advert for it. I think in general, and this has come up on, we had the Roger Waters concert already, we've had Pride and issues around there. And we've had constantly people saying, have you seen this on an underground station? Have you seen these flags on streets and everything? And in each of these cases, depending what the agency that we're working to is, we will immediately report a flag, or will immediately report an advert. We will immediately take these matters up, whether it be the police, whether it be Transport for London, British Transport Police, National Rail, whichever organisation we will go to, Heathrow Airport, on something that came up in terms of badges and there. Those things go off immediately, and that's how we deal with those. We work with the senior public affairs staff. They will come back to us normally really rapidly, and we work on that, and that's proving to be relatively effective. In terms of something like what happened with Pride, we were able to set up, unfortunately, the initial conversations with the police and with Pride were not handled in a way that probably was as conducive to what we wanted to happen, and it could have been. And then we actually turned around, we set up a group with from the police independent advisory group for LGBT and the Jewish community, and involved in that yourself and various other deputies.
Which is why I'm being generous to you on time.
Thank you. And I'm just trying to, and they're actually now working at a meeting with the leadership of Pride. And then, so when we talk about this, you've given us this, we will go through a process looking at different ways in which we can respond to this. And that can be around what would the policing be for something, what would be the effects on the community, and what action we can take. And we'll work on that.
Thank you. Jeremy.
Yes, thank you. George, I was actually looking at my own policy pledges last week, and I was already starting to make a short list of things that I know we could achieve very, very quickly. And I'm going to put that to the other, to Phil and the other honorary officers, the ones that I know that we can sort of achieve straight away. But I'm also, like Andrew, aware that there will be divisional elections, and while I want to create the outline of a plan, I think it's important that the deputies that are elected to the Communities and Education Division also have a major input. So therefore, it's going to be a two-stage process. I will develop the basic plan, and some of it can be achieved very, very quickly, but the rest will be influenced, to say the least, by deputies' input. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm next disposed to. Oh, Ben, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, there was a question about the comms out to deputies, the community briefing and so forth. It is on our list to have a look at that, to give it an overhaul in the context of our other comms. So it will happen at some point, hopefully later this year.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I've got Karen Worth, then Susan Pascoe, and then Linda Sharp. Karen, the floor's yours.
Hi, thanks everybody. Mine's also just a very small point really, but an important one. It's about the timings of these plenary meetings. My experience in the last triennium is that they kept changing. And for those, particularly those of us outside of London who have to book train tickets, that can be completely crazy, that we thought it was starting at 11 o'clock and then suddenly it's 1:45. So I would just ask that that is decided in advance along with the dates, and they don't get changed, so that we can actually make plans. I'm sure for all sorts of people that's important, not just those who need trains. So thanks very much. That's all.
Thank you so much, Karen. Can you just say your constituency?
Oh, sorry. Yes, Karen Worth, Nottingham Liberal Synagogue.
Smashing. Thank you. Susan, the floor's yours.
Hi, Susan Pascoe, Nairstraw Community in Hendon. Question for Phil and Andrew. First, I want to congratulate especially Phil and all the honorary officers on your very energetic and enthusiastic start, which we're all delighted with. I wanted to raise a question in relation to the Finchley and Golders Green hustings, which is my neighbouring constituency, because I was asked why there weren't any hustings actually in Golders Green.
Sorry.
So, there were hustings, which is wonderful, at Ayleth and Finchley Progressive Reform, which is great, but organised by the board on your website, there wasn't the Golders Green hustings. In relation to my constituency, Hendon, I understand that the demographics dictated that the hustings were in Mill Hill Shore, which is great, and Edgware and Hendon Reform, which is in Edgware. But surely demographics can't be the reason for not being in the heart of Golders Green, your old Shore, Phil, Golders Green United Synagogue, for example, or another Shore in Golders Green. So thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Linda, the floor is yours. Can you say your constituency, please?
I'm Linda Sharp, Finchley United Synagogue, and a very seasoned deputy. I have interacted with a lot of people who are interested that I'm on the Board of Deputies, but there's always the talk about the board doesn't have any relevance because the Jewish Leadership Council is the important body. Now, I do hope over the years we've gone through this, that you will have meetings with the Jewish Leadership Council and that the Board of Deputies is seen to be prominent when general things happen, that Jewish Leadership Council people meet with prime ministers, members of parliament. I hope the Board of Deputies' name will be up there.
Thank you very much. I'd like to invite the young man to the who I don't know. Please forgive me.
Daniel Grossman, UJS. Thank you very much to all of the honorary officers for all of their work. My question's for Phil. So recently, you've had some meetings with Sipi Hotoveli, and the photos you look quite happy to meet her in. I was just wondering, have you been challenging her? Because she is someone that has come out explicitly against the two-state solution that we believe in. And she's not a partner for peace, quite frankly. And neither is the current Israeli government. So will we change our approach and work with grassroots Israeli organizations to advance the two-state solution and peace and the end of the war and the release of the hostages? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Super, thank you. I'm going to stop there because that was a rich lot of questions. Ben, can you take the question on timing and on timing of the meetings? And Phil, can you not mop up as many of the room, and then you take some as well. I just don't want to come right the way along because it's too long. So first of all, Ben, and then you.
We'll review and consult. I'm conscious of deputies, diaries and availability. I'll speak in particular to Jeremy, who I think will speak to the regional deputies more broadly to get a view on that. I take very much the point that people want dates and times in a predictable way as soon as possible. We have a commitment to get out, it's in the Constitution, to get out the 2025 dates at some, over the summer before we break at the end of July. And so we'll aim to have those out with timings as well.
Super, thank you. Question on hustings, questions on the JLC. Phil, please.
I'm going to pass the hustings questions to Andrew, who organised it. I would point out that ALIF is in Golders Green, but I know Andrew will answer on some of the detail of the other points. Regarding the Jewish Leadership Council, we've got off to a very good start in terms of our engagement with them. I've had some very good and constructive meetings with Keith Black, and obviously we organised those hustings together. You'll know, because I've said it publicly, I think the two organisations should merge and come together under democratic control for the good of the community. And we'll continue those conversations. If there's interest, we'll move that forward. If not, we'll work together for the good of the community, and I'm sure that we will. On Daniel's question, look, we are a diverse group of people. We have a range of different views, particularly on Israel. Israel itself is a lively democracy. But I have to say that for the president of the board not to have as good and a constructive relationship with the ambassador of Israel is not a credible position for this organization. We've had some very good conversations with the Israeli ambassador, and I won't go into the details because diplomatically, you don't share everything, but I would say that nothing's been off the table, but the conversations have been good. And for deputies who want both to affirm the relationship that I think we have as a constitutional obligation to preserve a strong relationship with the State of Israel, and for those who have concerns, we have to have as good a possible relationship with both the ambassador of the State of Israel, whoever he or she is at a given time, and indeed the Israeli government. So I hope that answers your question, but thank you for it.
Adrian, do you have anything to add on that particular point?
Well, just to disclose, I'm a vice president of the Jewish Leadership Council and was on the board as it happened. Is that now? Yeah, as is Phil. Sorry, as the president. Sorry, excuse me, for my lesser majesty. And was a trustee of JLC for many years. I think the board has enormous strength in the public affairs arena, and that's recognised by the Jewish Leadership Council. And as the President said, all of the hustings were done jointly by the board and the JLC. And if you look at the board's social media recognition, if you look at the the number of views that any board tweet or post on X gets, it shows the board has great social media reach, and we're a very strong brand. And I know from my own interactions with members of senior members of the previous Parliament and likely to be in the next Parliament, that the board's held in very high esteem. That's all I'd add to that. So I just wanted to I just agree that as the board deputies and given our remit, you have to. It's not credible not to engage with the ambassador, and if you're going to have a photograph with someone, you have to smile. You can't but pull a grimace. I think there's no halfway house there, and also you always have to respect the office apart from anything else, and this ambassador, has that office and has the respect accordingly.
Thank you very much. Andrew, please.
Hustings is really difficult because in hustings you have to get the candidates to want to turn up. And however important we think we are, they're not going to go to every single synagogue in the borough and just do hustings for us. And the fact is we got more hustings in most constituents than anyone else. So with great apologies to those people who missed out this time, we try and move them round the different synagogues, but not everyone can have each time. So whether it's Hendon, Golders Green or United or Reform, we try and balance it, and we talk with the synagogues, we talk with the communities. And the fact that we got 3 to happen in Finchley Golders Green, 2 to happen in Hendon, 2 to happen in Hartsmere, 2 to happen in Harrow East is pretty remarkable, because often that's most of the hustings that happened. So apologies to anyone that didn't get. It wasn't anything nasty. It wasn't anything you did. It's just trying to share it around. If communities can work together, that's great, but it is an absolute bum fight at the beginning, because the Labour Party was actually telling their MPs not to do hustings. So we were actually going to convince people to do it. And so it was all hard work. And thank you so much to everyone who made it happen in your communities. You were absolutely incredible.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate everybody trying to be brief so we can get as many questions. So I'm going to take Karen Maxwell, and then Vicky Harris, and then Richard Del Monte. Karen, the floor's yours. Can you say your constituency, please?
Karen Maxwell, Liberal Jewish Synagogue. Good afternoon, and great congratulations and welcome to the new honorary officers. A good start already. Love the music. My question probably sort of follows on a bit from Daniel's question. We've always trod that very sort of delicate line between interfering and influencing with regard to Israel. Taking this forward, what are your thoughts on how we, as a board, can work on what our diverse views are and our position? Because you said, Phil, I think in your pledges, we need to work towards peaceful outcomes, which I'm sure all of us feel. The routes to that are manifold, but what are your thoughts on how we can get together, gather working parties, discussions, whatever it is, for us to try and get some kind of appropriate response from the board towards the level to which we need to influence Israel, because the current situation is it's not sustainable in any respect for anybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Vicky, I'm going to bunch questions again. So Vicky, please.
Thank you. Vicky Harris, Hampstead Garden
And
Suburb.
it helps if you can say who you'd like to answer your question. I'm going to try and do a bit, but it's really great if you can.
I'd like the President to answer my question, and also possibly our Treasurer. Let's start with the Treasurer question. Would you be able to split the budget into different divisions so that each division knows how much money it's got to spend? For the President, let me congratulate him on wanting to include deputies' views, but also to say that he accepts there's no single Jewish view on a subject. There may be time to hold deputy debates on important issues, but not on all the important issues. And we've seen in the manifesto there are a number of commitments where perhaps deputies' views haven't yet been canvassed. Would you consider working with the Institute of Jewish Policy Research to get their input in to understanding what the whole British Jewish community feels about or believes about a subject. Let me declare an interest. I was previously a trustee and director of the JPR, and our esteemed Dr. Efrat Sofer is currently a member of the JPR trustee and directors. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicky. Richard, the floor is yours.
This is it's a question for the President.
Could you
My
give us
name
your
is,
constituency, Richard,
Del Monte,
please?
And sorry, I'm saying my name is Richard Del Monte. Constituency is David Ishaq Synagogue. And as I said, this is for the President. I'm grateful to him for his reply concerning my question about when the Israeli ambassador can be invited to address deputies. I think with the continuing seriousness of the conflict, as other deputies have mentioned, I believe many deputies will want to hear from the ambassador and to be able to question her about the situation as soon as possible. So would it be possible for the President to be a little bit more specific about when she might be invited? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. Okay, so we have questions there on Israel and questions on the budget and question on JPR and question whether or not we can invite the ambassador. So I'm going to ask Phil to address as many of those and then throw it open to the rest of you.
Sure. First of all, Karen, thank you for your question. As I said during the election campaign, it is okay to disagree L'Shem Shamayim for the sake of heaven. It's even better to agree L'Shem Shamayim. And so I think there are a number of issues which we can push forward with strength on Israel, even though there are many divided views, which include, among other things, getting the hostages out, pushing back against Iran and its proxies, and expanding peace in the region, including the Abraham Accords and that elusive two-state solution. The Board of Deputies manifesto has been an attempt, and thank you to all the deputies who contributed, to try and find a consensus position as far as is possible on many issues, Israel included. And that will kind of guide the way that we're going to be engaging. But there will be opportunities for debate and discussion. That's what I want to encourage over the course of this triennium. So we will hear those views and we'll make that happen. I'm going to bunch that with, if I may, the question from Richard, and thank you, Richard, for the question. We will find an appropriate opportunity for the Israeli ambassador to engage with us. I think it'd be good for deputies to have an opportunity to engage with Israeli government and Israeli government officials to put the diverse range of views that we have to them. We'll find an appropriate opportunity to do that. And finally, to Vicky, and I know one of the questions is for Ben, so I'll leave that to Ben. The JPR survey is a fantastic resource. They're an important stakeholder. We look at the results of those surveys and we take guidance from them. So yeah, absolutely important stakeholder, and we are guided by them in the responses that we give.
Thank you. Jeremy or Adrian, Andrew, do you have anything to add on any of these questions? Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much, and thank you for saying that. Adrian?
Yeah, there's a Kabbalistic concept called Tzimtzum, which is that the reason that the world exists is because God withdrew within himself to create the space for the world. And the reason I raise that is because I once heard a member of Knesset, a Haredi woman who was a member of Knesset on the left of the Israeli spectrum, ironically, who used that term to talk about Israeli politics. And sometimes you get the feeling within the board that people want to win their position and make it the position of the board. And sometimes I think we all need to exercise Tzimtzum, which is that we may hold a view, we may represent an organisation with that view, but we have to wear the hat. We have to think about what's in the interest of the board as a representative organisation of the Jewish community. And so therefore we have to accept compromise. So diversity of views is very important. That's the kind of legitimacy of the board. But we also have to try and find a way where we give and take and compromise and accept the fact that the corporate view of the board may not be our own particular view.
Thank you very much. Ben, the question on division budget split.
Yes, so thanks for the question. I'm happy to, without being technical, and obviously it's something which my division spends some time on, and deputies are welcome to come and join in our discussions on it. But the short answer is that the very large majority of what we spend of our regular costs are staff costs. You've heard from all the staff. A lot of them have work that cuts across various different divisions. The majority of the costs that aren't staff costs are for specific projects, for the ADI anti-Semitism resource, for Yom HaShoah, for Pekuach, for specific projects which sit within a divisional budget, but and frame of reference, but obviously a fundraise for individually and restricted to some sense or another. And the majority of costs that aren't that are overheads, our rent, our insurance, deputies' expenses, and so forth. So in terms of what is the amount of money that doesn't fit into any of those categories that could nominally be allocated to one division or another, the answer is not very much at all. Like, the very large majority of our costs cut across divisions because the board is structured, to have divisions for policy,
Right.
but our resources go across, go out in the way that we actually use them. That you do parliamentary advocacy, that's all divisions. Local government, that's all divisions. Intercommon relationship, that's most divisions. So
Ben, I need to hurry you.
yeah, it's complicated. I'm happy to spend some time on it in a future divisional meeting.
Great. Okay, I'm disposed to take another round of questions, but you will have to be very quick because I'm also trying to keep to time. So what I'd like to do is ask the gentleman in the blue jacket, whose name I don't know, so I apologise to you, and then Flora Frank online, and then the gentleman behind him, and then my good friend Owen. So if we can get you all in, I'd like to do that really quickly if we can. So I need your help for that.
My name is Julian Pollard from Market and Avot in Hendon. Firstly, can I commend this manifesto and refer you to commitment number 6, which is to foster communal harmony. And this is a question for Andrew Gilbert. In my respectful submission, interfaith relations in this country are now at an all-time low. They are hampered by the farce of what happened at the St Pancras Church last week. As some of you know, one of the speakers was Roger Waters, another rapper called Loki. They were advised in advance to cancel it. They refused to do so. And I was alarmed to note that the reverend in charge of this particular church is quite a high-profile Church of England minister called Lucy Winkett, who regularly appears on the BBC for Thought for the Day. I've written to her at some length expressing my concerns and asking that she reflect on what she's done and maybe to take some more conciliatory approaches when she's using that platform. But I'd like to ask you, Andrew, how are we going to rebuild interfaith relations?
Thank you so much for that question. Flora, the floor is yours.
Can you hear me? Thank you. First of all, I want to congratulate Phil. He's made a historic, it's fantastic for a young man like that to take over such a awesome position. And after hearing his pledges, I think that we really can, I believe I have every confidence in him and in the new board, in the new honorary officers. I want to wish every one of them a lot of success. My question actually has been answered, but I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody. But I would like to ask a question which has come to me now, if I may. It's to do with the Jewish Living exhibition. Dawn has spoken about it. Of course, Jeremy has spoken about it. And I'm very proud to be involved with the education department. But I do go to as many of the Jewish Living exhibitions that I can possibly do, not as many as I'd like to. And I've noticed that it's wonderful that we have some amazing people who are outside of the board who come along. But I know, and this is the question really about, are we going to do more to encourage those of us who may not get onto the divisions? I think it's so important because there's fantastic talent. We've all said this, I'm not the only one. And I think we should really use the talent within the board. That's what we are.
Thank you very much, Flora.
It's wonderful
Thank
to have
you.
people outside. Thank
Flora,
you.
Flora, I'm going to stop you, but I think your question was about using talent in the board, and I would ask all the honour officers to look at that. Many, many thanks. The floor is yours, and again, my apologies for not knowing your name.
My name's Michael Sampson.
Sorry.
A deputy for Nottingham Hebrew Congregation. Just congratulations to everybody at the top table. And anybody who wants to answer it, probably the President on behalf of the others will be fine. Some of my shul members have expressed concerns that the board's new leaders are very much Labour Party orientated. How is the board going to address these concerns to ensure that an equally balanced viewpoint is expressed? It is also mentioned that there is a lack of women now on the leadership roles, but I see you may be addressing that with Karen sitting there, but that's a question to answer as well.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your brevity. And Owen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. It's Owen Power, Deputy for York Liberal Jewish Community. Firstly, Karen, it's great to see you as Chair. My question is to the President. Phil, it was wonderful to welcome you to Manchester recently and for the opportunity to engage with some of the other deputies. What I'd like to ask you, what do you feel would be a good starting priority for deputies in the North to undertake in order to best serve the board and the community as a whole? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are going to be out of time with these answers, so I want to thank everybody for going to the mic. I really am committed to sticking to time for all of you. I think that's what you all wanted Chair to do. So my apologies to those of you who we haven't had time to take. I'm going to give, I think I'm going to give the floor to everybody and then ask Phil to mop up right at the end, if that's all right. And I'd like to start with you, Jeremy, because I think some of this last round, looking at interfaith and other issues, are very much yours.
Absolutely. I know Andrew also deals with interfaith too. First of all, as far as the JLE is concerned, with Flora's question, and generally, I was talking to deputies earlier on. Once we've got the elections over, and we know who's the people who are elected onto the Communities and Education Division, and once we've got the basic outline of our plan, then I want to bring in as many deputies as observers who wish to be part of the Communities and Education Division. Although you won't have a chance to vote, observers don't get the chance to vote, but they can be involved in every other way, and some of the best work in the last triennium was done by observers. Finally, also, obviously SACREs have much to do with interfaith relations, and I will certainly be encouraging people who are on SACREs to try and reach out to people in other faiths. And we sometimes forget the dharmic religions, the Hindu, Buddhist, Sikh, Baha'i, etc., etc. We sometimes forget about them, and I think we should try our best also to link up with them as much as possible.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jeremy. Andrew, please.
Yeah, I want to focus, Julian, on your question. The first thing is, I was horrified, as you are, with what happened, the awfully weak apology and the no action that St Pancras Church took. We actually engaged with the police about ensuring they were there and have had reports back from the police about what happened at the event itself. We've also written to the Archdeacon of Hampstead and asked for an urgent meeting, and would pursue this further with the Bishop of Willesden and actually the Bishop of London, and look through in each of these areas to work up through to the Synod and other areas. And this isn't the first problems we've been having in terms of the way interfaith is being done with the church. In South London, there was a meeting that Wimbledon and other communities pulled out of because it was basically we were excluded as Jews from what was the South London Interfaith Group. So what I'm saying is, absolutely, this is wherever before we start talking about how we do things with the Muslim community, we've got to really go back on the church, and we've got to go back very, very heavily on the church at all levels and work it through. And I want to see us do this locally as well. So I want all of you to be involved, working up through with the local structures of the church in each diocese, and see that we can really check in both in areas where there are lots of Jews, areas where there are few Jews, and bluntly where there are areas of no Jews, so that we really can deal with what seems to be a real problem that we're potentially going to have with the church, standing with the Palestinian PSC and parts of the community ignoring us in many areas. We've got to make sure we're heard.
Thank you very much. Ben and AJ, I don't know if you have anything to say on this particular clutch of questions. If not, I'd like to give the last word to Phil, because we promised you all a comfort break, and chairs should not mess with people's comfort breaks. So I'd like to give the last word to Phil on this particular section.
Thank you very much. So just to run through those questions that I can, to Julie, an important question, and it's clear that interfaith relations are under some strain. I'll give you some good news. Since my election, 30 or 40 Muslim leaders have written to me, Sunni, Shia, Conservative, Liberal, to say that they'd like to work with us, and a number of them have done so publicly. And what we're going to be doing is working to reach out to those who are interested, the moderate mainstream, so that we can build an optimistic alliance to fight back against extremism and prejudice, and to build the society we all want to see. And that's something we're going to be doing, and I'm going to be asking deputies over time to build relationships locally. I know many of you already do, so we begin to build resilience against the hatred that we've seen and the extremism that we've seen. Flora, your question on the Jewish living experience and how we empower deputies, and indeed I'm going to tack to some of what Owen said as well. My ambition is to empower all 300 of our deputies and to engage all of them. And to the specific question about what Owen said, all deputies from the Northwest and beyond, I'm going to be asking after the election to begin developing relationships with your local members of parliament, councillors, faith leaders, as I've said, and indeed local media, so we can begin to really utilise the infrastructure that we have for the good of the community. I should say, Owen, it was a great pleasure to be in Manchester. I've fulfilled a pledge that I'd made. And we're looking at having deputies advance notice the November board meeting in Manchester, just the day rather than a whole weekend, so really begin to stress the emphasis of the board as a national organisation. Finally, to Michael, and thank you for your question. Look, we've got a very strong team in terms of our political engagement and experience. And I'd say about the political diversity, judge us on our actions. I was supported in my campaign by people very much from the Conservative Party and from the Labour Party. My track record is getting Hamas and Hezbollah prescribed under a Conservative government, working with a Conservative government on Brexit, working with a Conservative government on coronavirus, and a number of Conservative former MPs and special advisors backed me publicly in the campaign. I know that Adrian and Andrew have strong political reach, of course, in the Labour Party, but also work very strongly with Conservatives, including Conservative administrations in City Hall as the London Jewish Forum. So I think judge us by our actions, that's really important. And finally, on the very important question of gender equality, as I mentioned, we've put forward a gender equality plan. Women deputies are invited tomorrow to a meeting that we're going to discuss that plan to take it forward. But we're already thinking how may we ensure that the 50+% of the population are included absolutely in the leadership and the rest of the board. So thank you for those questions. And anyone else, please do send them in. We'll get them to you in writing.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all very much.
5 p.m.
It's now 3:05. I'm going to give you 10 minutes plus. I need you back. We're going to restart the meeting at 3:20 prompt. Again, my apologies to all of you who wanted to ask questions and we didn't have time. Deputies, I do need to restart the meeting. I don't want to have to use this exquisite gavel. This is the most exquisite piece of equipment. This was a gavel given to the Board of Deputies in 1934, in June 1934. So it's in fact exactly 90 years old, and it was presented to the Board of Deputies of British Jews by somebody called Alderman Bolson. It's an exquisite gavel, and I hope I don't need to use it. Thank you all very much for coming to order so that we can keep us on track with regard to time. Before I start the meeting, I do want to ask everybody to use the microphone in a way that ensures that people can hear you. Apparently, that is not happening. So what we need is not for people vaguely to have it there. We need for people to actually get out their inner Mick Jagger. It's that. All of you, including you. Because people are saying that they can't hear you. So with that, may I hand over for the next item to Ben, please.
Thanks very much, Karen. I know we said before deputies have had the papers sent out in advance. But because this is obviously quite an important point, I'm just going to briefly run through the note which was distributed to deputies with the papers about the timing of the divisional elections. So divisions are a core part of the board's work, their policy, their supervisory, they have working groups, they do all sorts of things. The elections to them are one of the key features of the first few months of the new triennium, and they shape the work that goes forwards. And obviously, in order to be eligible for elections to a division, you need to be a deputy, you need to be elected by a constituency, you need to be onboarded and completed all the paperwork. Now, it's lovely to see so many people here. It's lovely to see so many people online, but it would be lovely to see even more people. And normally, at this first meeting, we do have more people. That in particular, because Pesach was so late, lots of synagogues didn't have their AGMs in April as they often do. They've been pushed to June, to July, to the summer. And that means that sort of like for like, although we expect to have as many deputies, as many constituencies as we had in the last cycle, like for like we are some way behind. That we have 202 constituencies of the board as at the end of the last cycle. We have deputies now from I think, well, 132 is in my paper. I think it's now up to the high 130s. And there's just a long list that Sarah Radovan, who's been doing amazing work of this, has, of synagogues, of organisations, of when their AGMs are, of when we're expecting deputies to come back. And so primarily in the interests of fairness to all deputies, to new deputies and returning deputies, to give everyone equal chance to be involved in divisional work, we're proposing, the HO is proposing, and it was discussed at the FNO meeting a couple of weeks ago, to move the elections from their usual date in July to the meeting in September. Now, there's power to do that in the Constitution. It says in exceptional circumstances. Just to quickly run through the exceptional circumstances, as I said already, the lateness of Pesach. Usually we'd spend time this meeting talking at length about divisions. We would give people a chance to canvass and so forth. Instead, for obvious reasons, we're spending time on the general election. We'll have an open discussion on that. I don't think there's ever previously been a situation where we've had a general election campaign overlapping with the onboarding process. It's very inconsiderate of the government to have done that to us. We've also, just a couple of points, we've also already announced the July meeting as an online-only meeting. That makes it harder for us to do what we would usually do, which is have some time before the meeting for people to canvass, for people to meet with each other and so forth. And we've also had feedback from deputies, including with the recent consultation with women deputies, that coming straight into elections is inaccessible. It's harder for deputies who are new to the board to get involved. And if we give them a little bit more time, that would help as well. So on that basis, we'd like to propose pushing the elections back to the September meeting. We'll still have a meeting in July, but all the deadlines will move back. It will give us more time to communicate. It will give us time to have our roadshow meetings in July for people to find about all our divisions and work. Obviously, I'm happy to take questions. I'm happy to sort of talk through this more as needed. At the FNO, I said it did go through NEMCON. In the end, everyone was very happy with got to. I do have the apparatus to have a vote if deputies would like to have a vote.
Thank you very much, Ben. I wonder if it will. Is there anybody who has any comments? Because I'd like to spend as little time on this as possible. It seems like that's a very good rationale. Can I have a look online? Are people nodding their heads? Are people reasonably happy?
Yeah. Jerry's got a question.
There's a question at the back there. Is that you? It's Jerry. Jerry, come on up. Yeah. Okay, Richard, go to the mic. Is there a lot of people? That's what I was hoping.
Jerry Lewis Hampstead, just very briefly to add what you've said. For new deputies, encourage everybody to get nominated for divisions, but don't be disappointed if new deputies don't get a chance to get on a division. Many years ago, I put through an amendment to the Constitution which allows any deputy to go to any division meeting with the approval of the chair. That's a very, very important point, not to discourage new deputies from standing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry, for your comment
Thank
and also
you.
for your amendment.
Thank you.
Rob Sassoon, Deputy for the S&P Sephardi Community, also Vice Chair of the Board's Under 35 Assembly and a member currently of the F&O Division. I fully support the motion, of course. I was one of the people that supported it at F&O the other week. I just thought maybe it'd be worth clarifying to people what the divisions will be doing between now and the elections in September if this motion indeed passes. Could you just perhaps clarify for everyone what will happen, how they'll function?
Sure, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, can I ask, is there anybody in the room, and then I'll ask the same question, who is against this? Okay, so for those of you online, there was no hands raised. Is there anybody online who is against the idea of postponing until September the divisional elections? I see nobody. Okay, in that case, is it the pleasure of the deputies that we postpone those elections till December?
Yes.
It is. Thank you all very much. Let's close that item.
15. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm confident that expresses the will of a significant majority.
Everybody online.
majority of deputies. So I'm happy with that. Thank you. Ben, will you just say a word of how you see the divisions progressing between now and then?
An email will go around to deputies early this coming week with details of the road shows which every division will be running in the middle of July. I believe 3 in the week beginning the 15th, 1 in the week beginning 22nd. Those will be open meetings to all deputies to showcase our work. I would expect that later in the summer, August or perhaps the first week of September, there will be regular divisional meetings as well, just to take care of ongoing business. Membership made up of the returning deputies who were on that division the last triennium, as provided for in the Constitution in Clause 24, but of course observers will, I'm sure, be very welcome at those.
Thank you very much. That's great. That gives me an opportunity to introduce this very important element of our meeting today, the open forum. So I want to hand over to Phil to explain a bit more about this.
Thank you, Deputies. Well, during the recent honorary officer elections, I said that I wanted to change these meetings, and you've seen some of the changes already, but I noticed that the challenge with the meetings is the only way that deputies could previously be involved was effectively by asking a question of the honorary officers. And whilst that's important and accountability remains important, actually it meant that a lot of the time was taking up with the answers, and actually we weren't facilitating the full discussion of deputies. So I want to be putting into every meeting, and sometimes it will be a discussion, sometimes it will be a debate, an opportunity for us to hear from you, because I want this Board of Deputies to almost be like a focus group, an intelligence squared of the UK Jewish community, where we can really hear different perspectives from our deputies who represent communities from Cornwall to Aberdeen about the different challenges that we have. And we thought that in this week, where the general election obviously is on Thursday, it'd be wonderful to hear from you about the challenges and opportunities you foresee in the next Parliament, and to hear so that we can help shape our advocacy and engagement, holding to account without fear or favour whatever government is elected, and working again, of course, with the opposition, whichever is elected. We've spoken about the manifesto. Just before I hand over to you to begin that discussion, I want to say that just at the end at 4 p.m, we're going to take a group picture of all of us holding the manifesto to circulate on our social media. So don't run off too quickly. We're going to do that together so that we've got that picture, which I think is a really nice touch for the end of the meeting.
Thank you very much, Phil. I see Johnny Weinberg's hand up online. So Johnny, the floor is yours.
Many thanks. It was actually a question I was going to ask earlier, but it does speak to the sort of things that you're talking about, Phil. So since October the 7th, we've seen an unprecedented surge of over 30% in demand for our mental health support. That's Johnny Weinberg, Jewish Action for Mental Health. Our mental health support means at Jewish Action for Mental Health, due to trauma in our community. The 500% increase in anti-Semitism and the regular anti-Israel marches have been part of this. And over 60% of our clients now raise anti-Semitism as part of their presenting issues. And whilst we've approached the Greater Manchester Integrated Care Board, we're currently receiving no funding from the NHS, despite child and adolescent mental health services and adult mental health services both referring clients to us. So are the Board of Deputies able to approach NHS England and whomever the new Minister for Health after Thursday may be, to see if some specific funding for those facing trauma as described, and possibly for those in the Muslim community also traumatised, could be put together for this work?
Thank you very much. Please feel free to go to the microphone if you are in the hall. And I see that the new president of UJS wants the floor. The floor is yours.
Hi, I'm Sammy Burkhoff. I'm the new president of UJS. Me and Phil talked, and I thought it would be helpful just to kind of touch on UJS's plans. So we have a plan for our first 100 days. One of the most important is to continue our strong relationship with the new government and work to ensure that the universities have the confidence to tackle anti-Semitism on campus. We also want to push for the IRGC proscription, which Jewish students voted unanimously for. We also want to continue our work with the party on the Free Speech Act, which we've already started dialogue with Bridget Phillipson's team on these issues. If anyone wants to look into that more, I really recommend Guy, our former head of campaigns, article in the Times on the problematic nature of this free speech. But these are kind of our main plans to tackle in the first 100 days, which is really exciting because it's as my new team starts.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take Paul Hart and then Sheila Gewolb.
Thank you, and muzzle tops for everybody for getting their positions. This is actually a question wanted to be asked earlier, and I'm asking this on behalf of Michael Reich, who is Deputy for Mosaic Reform Synagogue. He's noticed that Sky News are also using the figures given out by Hamas for the fatalities in Gaza. Wants to know, will we be pursuing Sky News as much as we're pursuing the BBC?
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Sheila, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Karen. Sheila Gewolb, Cardiff United Synagogue. Jeremy, thank you. Jeremy, can you please explain to everybody, if the deputies, returning and new deputies, if you don't live within the M25, that there is a regional assembly, please, and how that works? Thank you.
Yeah, all right.
Supposed to be questions, by the way.
Thank you very much. Noah, I was going to hold you in reserve because you've spoken already today, but you're the only hand that I can see online, so I will take your question.
Thanks, Karen. Sorry, I missed the bit of the spiel where Phil said about this section. We on the election discussion?
Yes.
Yes, okay, fab. So, Noah Katz, UJS, I've already mentioned. I had a look through the board's Twitter media, which tends to be the easiest way to find statements issued by the board in one place, or X, formerly Twitter. And was quite surprised to find a total lack of condemnation of Reform candidates or the Reform Party's anti-Semitism within their midst. I very much could be wrong, and there could have been condemnation, but I didn't see it on Twitter/X. So my question about going forwards into the next government, the next parliament with the election, everything above, how might the board, how are we going to react to the potential rise of pretty significant, pretty solidly far-right rhetoric in British politics? I don't think I need to explain the dangers of the far-right to Jewish communities. It should be quite obvious, and it's really scary, at least for me, to see the rise of reform when I'm out on the doorsteps and lots of other places. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Noah. I'm a little concerned that it's a bit like the kind of questions to the panel Mark II, and we wanted this to feel a bit different. Phil, I was wondering if you could have a slight go at recalibrating this in some way, while responding to some of the really important points that have been raised.
Absolutely. So this is not, you don't need to ask us questions. This is actually your opportunity to express your excitement, concerns, things that we should be taking into the next session. But I appreciate that some people had questions. We won't broadly use it for this, but as we're getting used to the new system, of course, we'll respond. To Paul and Michael via Paul, of course, we'll be taking on media bias from all channels, and Sky included, of course, so that's important to say. Noah, you asked an important question about candidates. We had actually made statements on the Reform candidates, particularly to the Financial Times, I think it was. So we are mindful of that, and a few friends drew my attention after Shabbat to the leaders' debate between the Green Party and the Reform Party leaders on Friday night, where both of them absolutely failed, I think, to show the leadership in terms of the, frankly, quite dodgy characters that both parties seem to be holding up. Either they're not telling the truth, or they're not completely in control of their own parties. We expect them to disbar those candidates, or to withdraw support in all meaningful ways from those extremist people who said things like, we're not sure whether we should have fought Hitler in the Second World War. It's anti-British as much as it's an anti-Jewish position, and I hope they'll step back from it. But yes, the main point of this session is to hear from you about your hopes, aspirations, what we should be taking into our engagement with the government, whichever is elected on Thursday.
Thank you very much, Phil. Before I go back to the speakers, and I'll give you a list in a minute, I'm just going to give the floor briefly to Andrew.
Yeah. Thank you. I felt that when we were on hustings, we saw lots of questions being asked, and they weren't what we always expected.
And I think it's an opportunity this for you to perhaps shape the conversation that we're having. Because whilst we did hear a lot about anti-Semitism, about Israel, the hostages and everything on the hustings, a lot of people were focusing on housing, cost of living, they were focused on health, and it probably is important to hear what you've come out locally from your experiences and what are you hearing on the ground, because I think that is what we need to hear. What are the issues in your community? And also, as we've got to know various of the candidates, we need to go back on each of their manifestos after the election, not just who gets elected, but many of the things said by local candidates from all the parties sometimes have stunned us, and we've got a lot more work to do with all parties. So I think this is an opportunity from you nationwide to give us your experience of of what you're feeling and what your community is.
Thank you very much, Andrew. So I've got a gentleman in the hall, and then I'm going to take Michael Reich, and then there's a lady in the hall. And the gentleman in the hall is Daniel Levy. So my apologies to you, Daniel.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me? Fantastic. Daniel J. Levy, Elstree and Bournemouth United Synagogue. And firstly, thank you to Karen for her excellent and very professional chairing of this first meeting of the evening. And also to Noah Katz for a nudge to sort of redirect this portion back to the general election purpose. I think now's a good time to reflect back on the wins of the past government, particularly CST's ongoing funding from the Home Office, but also prescription victories with Hamas and Hezbollah with their so-called political wings. However, we must not rest on our laurels and settle. The IRGC remains unprescribed, despite pledges that they would be banned by the Conservatives. And we have the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, the PFLP, being promoted on campuses and having their flags displayed at a plethora of pro-Palestinian events and rallies. My call to action, or sort of ask as it were, would be we remain rigidly and laser focused on the developing counter-extremism and terror threats. And also to remember that the Houthis are currently being portrayed as the legitimate government of Yemen. They are posing an ongoing threat to British subjects and allies in the Middle East, and we must continue to lobby for effective counter-terror legislation for this upcoming government.
Thank you so much. Michael Reich, the floor is yours.
First of all, I have to apologise that I can't show myself. I've had terrible internet. It's unbelievable. I can actually speak. I sent a note to Phil, and he very kindly responded, because I'm very, very concerned about how the news media, the television news media, is the situation with regards to the casualties in Gaza. They continue to state all the time figures that are provided by Hamas, and they hardly qualify it, and it seems to me every time a greater stand against Israel. Phil has kindly said he's going to go and see the BBC to discuss with the BBC media. I think it's equally important that he does exactly the same with the Sky News, because I'm finding it far worse these days than the BBC. They seem to give any of the people they're speaking to in Israel no chance to actually defend themselves. And I think it causes a lot of the anti-Semitism that's going on within this country. The fact that, for instance, when they give the quantity of 37,000 which Hamas give, it includes all those terrorists. So we've got something like 15,000 who have. Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you very much, Michael. You're breaking up, but your point is made. Thank you very much, Michael, and we'll take that later on. But we have already looked at that issue, and I know that the media team is, as it were, on it. There's a lady here whose name should be in my head. It's not. It's Rosalind. My apologies, Rosalind. The floor is yours. But not the mic, apparently.
Thank you. Rosalind Lewis, Kingston Surbiton District Synagogue. Kingston is south of the Thames, which some of you may have heard of, where Judaism is alive and well and very, very active. And one of the things we're very active in, and we find very important, and it's become more and more important since October the 7th, is this: Holocaust education, commemoration and legacy. I want every single community in this country to do what Kingston, Wimbledon, Long Ditton have done. We have educated numerous children from secular schools, non-Jewish children. We get 1,400 every year. This year, because of COVID, we actually got 1,200. And we teach them about the Holocaust. And we have, if we don't have survivors, there are very few, there are lots of organizations that can supply you with survivors' children. There's generation to generation where they train them very well, and we've used them, it's free, and it makes an enormous difference. And it sometimes where children have never met Jews, and they've vaguely heard about the Holocaust. And you must realize that it will soon become history, and it mustn't. We must keep it alive. And there's just one other thing I want to say, which is possibly more controversial. A lot of us don't actually agree with the War Memorial in Victoria Gardens. I know that the board's view is that we do agree with it, but I do think that we should have a vote on it. Thank you. And thank you to the new team, which is great.
Thank you very much. I need to tell the people online that they are not holding their end up because I've got a lot of people in the hall and I will take them until I get any indication that people online want to speak. Mary Rainier Lee, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm going to come back to the Holocaust Memorial. It actually came up at our hustings and it was mentioned in our synagogue. And we had present a person who had actually been on the council, which took the decision not to give permission for it. Of course, that's long gone by. But what he did say was all the reasons that the council decided not to think it was a good idea, mostly in terms of security. I don't want to go through those now. But the reality of is, I come from Westminster, and I know the people of Westminster, and they do not want it either. The whole reasons of the Tower Gardens, they were given to the community in perpetuity. The government might want to change that, but the people of Westminster don't, and they should be listened to. And we should also listen to our previous speaker, because we are wasting millions. It was originally costed 50 million to build it where we in Victoria Tower Gardens. 50 million, but that's now expanded to 150 million. And that money could really be spent on the sort of things that my predecessor spoke about. We need to give Holocaust books in every school to every school child. We can still have a memorial. We still should have a memorial. It's very important that we should. But one of the things we need to do in this organisation is to discuss it, because it's never been discussed. There was never been a decision taken by all the deputies that we should proceed with it. And I beg of you that we should now consider the reasons why not, the reasons why, and listen to what we all have to say about it. Because as I speak to individuals, I'm surprised how many people do not want it either, to Jewish individuals.
Thank you, Mary. Can I ask you to say your constituency, Mary? Can you say your constituency, just so people know? Sorry.
I'm sorry, I apologise. Western Marble Arch.
Thank you.
United Synagogue, if anybody wants to know, that's it.
There have been a couple of questions on this. Before going to you, William, I'm disposed to ask Phil if he will just address this issue of the monument.
Sure, absolutely. Look, it became board policy, I think, after a consultation that we held around Holocaust Memorial that was in response to David Cameron's commission that was chaired by Mick Davis, if I recall correctly, and it became policy at that time. I hear the strength of feeling from some people, and as I've committed, if there are 20 signatories to a motion, we will have that debate, as indeed on any motion. So thank you for sharing that, and if there is that appetite, we'll have that debate.
Thank you very much, Phil. William Baginski, gives me great pleasure to give you the floor.
William Baginski, Association of Jewish Refugees. In another capacity completely, this is continued.
I need to ask you to speak into the mic. In a Mick Jagger, please.
William Baginski, Association of Jewish Refugees. It's continuing the theme of education in another capacity. I'm hearing from governors and from head teachers of Jewish schools about the financial difficulties that they're facing as a result of, particularly of their obligations for special educational needs and also Jewish studies for which they're not funded. I noticed that in the manifesto, it says in relation to education, unfortunately, local government is not fulfilling its obligations. But the reality is that local government is starved of funds. And I'm hoping, in answer to your plea that people say this is what I'd like you to do, is to say to central government, you need to be funding local government properly. Special educational needs especially is a big mess. And it isn't just Jewish schools, but it does really affect Jewish schools, and particularly as rolls fall. Thank you.
Thank you very much, William. There's now, I've got 3 speakers left, and I'd like to close it at that, unless anybody's desperate, because that way I can give people here, your honorary officers, an opportunity to speak before closing the meeting, and I know that at least one of them has to leave at 4 o'clock sharp. So I'm going to take the lady whose name I don't know in the hall, and then I'm going to take Alex Boyd, and then I'm going to take Richard Sassoon.
Hi, my name is Vicky Hart. I'm Deputy for Kisharon Langdon. Really quick, and it follows on quite well from the previous talk, which is about funding for social care, not just for Jewish social care organisations, but in conjunction with health, and just the lack of funding for local authorities and the impact that that has on social care systems. So I'm going to leave it there, except to congratulate the board and to congratulate Karen as well. I think it's been really great chairing. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexandra Boyd, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm Alexandra Boyd of Wessex Liberal Community. I reside in Wiltshire, in Salisbury. Firstly, congratulations to our new president and to Karen for chairing this meeting. I'm really proud of you. Coming to my hats, I'm a councillor and I also sit on our local SACRE board. Education to children is very, very important. For the first time last week, I have been in schools and I have taught 5 Year 10 classes about Judaism and 3 primary school classes about Judaism. I feel that if the board, gets as many people encouraged to go out there and do this work, it is really, really important. And I hope that our new president will sort of give members a little bit of a push and encourage. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alex. Richard, the floor's yours.
Richard Sassoon, Wembley S&P. 2 quick questions. Firstly, on education, is there a risk that with the prospect of a tax on private education, Jewish education studies may be at risk because they're often paid for privately? And secondly, when the Mayor of London was elected, his first engagement was with the Jewish community. When Keir Starmer was first elected as Labour leader, one of his first statements was on anti-Semitism in the Labour Party. Would you consider it a failure if by next Monday morning your photograph outside number 10 Downing Street has not appeared in the press?
Thank you, Richard. And thank you all deputies for keeping to time and being disciplined with your questions so that we could get through quite a lot of speakers. I'm disposed now to give the floor to each honorary officer in turn, and last word with Phil. But I want to go to Jeremy first because I know he has to leave and I don't want him to be too stressed. So Jeremy, on any of the questions or anything you would like to say at this time.
Thank you very much indeed, Karen, and echo your marvellous chair of the first meeting. I've got to dash off very quickly because I'm going down for the Brighton hustings and then meeting community leaders tomorrow morning. So in answer to various points about education, yes, we certainly need more people going out into schools, and I'm sure we did have in the past a national plan that we were trying to work on. It was probably a bit too big for what we could handle. I'm going back to the 2015-18 triennium. We do need to look at this again, and also I think we need to really offer training sessions, particularly for people who've never gone into schools before. This is something, of course, that I've done both professionally and in an amateur way. And also, just to very quickly point out, Sheila's asked me to mention, of course, that in the previous triennium, I was chair of the Regional Deputies Assembly and Council, and we will be organising a meeting of the Regional Deputies Assembly so that they can elect a new chair to take over, and I want that to happen sometime in September.
Thank you very much. I was going to give you the mic, Andrew. A very important question from Kisharon on funding social care, so I hope you're going to address that.
Absolutely. On social care, this was an area that came up on a lot of hustings as well. And if anyone's involved in local government, one of the things that's bankrupting local government is the needs of social care. And there needs to be a cross-party settlement on social care, because each year the costs of social care are going up. So they're not just a small part of a council's budget, but they end up being more than the council's whole budget in the near future. So there has to be a recognition of that, and we as a community need to stand up and also on that, and on also issues like Johnny Weinberg. And Johnny Weinberg, I didn't hear your question in full, it came over as crackly, but if you'd send your question in to me, I'll look to see if we can follow that one up on mental health as well.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Ben, do you have any mopping up to do?
Just a couple of very quick things. As mentioned, the video of this meeting was recorded. It's not going out live. It will be tidied up and put up on the board's YouTube channel, either later today or first thing tomorrow, for a week if anyone wants to share it, if anyone missed parts of the meeting and so forth. And the only other thing is to once again, please ask people to complete and return the deputies' contacts forms so that we can sort of get our various processes rolling, get people on the skills register, emails, share contacts, etc.
Thank you very much. Adrian, the floor is yours.
As an example of Simsum, I'm not actually going to say anything to save time.
Thank you, Adrian, for that discipline. Much thanks. Phil, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much indeed. So first of all, I wanted to say a huge thanks to all of you for joining us in this way and the constructive spirit in which this conversation was conducted. Excellent. And a particular thank you, if I may, to Karen for being the first of our independent chairs. One of the things that I've always thought needed to change a bit about board meetings is often we speak about what's happened in the past, and I just want to use this slot at each meeting to speak about the future and what you should expect from us over the coming month or so until we next gather again, as we know, online. Obviously, there'll be a lot of focus on the post-election follow-up. Whatever the results, we'll be engaging. We've already begun that discussion with government and opposition, which may or may not be the same after the election, but we're in a position to begin that engagement from the get-go, whatever the result of the election. Anti-Semitism obviously will be a key focus for us. We're looking at putting together a commission on anti-Semitism as discussed, something we're going to be looking at. Israel remains in our hearts. I should say that on the weekend from 5th to 7th October, we and communal partners, including regional partners, will be putting together a programme of activities around the anniversary of those horrific attacks. Hopefully, we'll be celebrating the release of all the hostages, but if not, we'll be standing with Israel regardless. And I hope everyone will find a way to be part of those conversations together, more information to follow as we go. People have spoken about engagement with Muslim communities. We'll be working on engagement with Muslim communities and continue our engagement with Arab embassies and governments to begin to expand the circle of peace. I spent my first morning in the role in Stamford Hill, and we've been having some very good conversations with Haredi communities. That will continue, as that is, an important part of our community. We're going to be sending out a reminder about tomorrow evening's meeting, 5 o'clock, for women deputies to begin putting in place the gender equality plan that we've put together, just finalising it and then rolling it out. Deputy empowerment continues to be a key focus. One of the things, obviously, is about how we use these meetings. So any feedback, welcome, things you like, things you didn't like about the way this meeting ran. We're going to be looking at how we can continue to improve them and improve your experience going forward. Something that's really important is we're going to be developing the board plan. We spoke about that, and we're going to be beginning the work on it so that we can have that with you for discussion and debate in the September meeting. And that will be a huge part of what we're doing. It would be remiss of me not to focus on the fact that there's an England match tonight, wishing the Three Lions every success. As a national organisation, I'd have liked to wish Scotland success. Unfortunately, we're not in the next round, but hopefully in future we'll be able to wish them and all the home nations success. We're going to have a photograph. The way this is going to work is you stay exactly where you are, but hold up your manifestos. the HO team and Karen, we're all going to come to the front. We're moving the banners around. It's all very efficient. And then we're going to take a quick picture, and then that's the end of the meeting. But just one last emphasis, as I said before, we're going to be focused very much on principle of Elvis Presley, a little less conversation, a little more action. Deputies, thank you.